Little
Picture.
picture of you and a big picture of me.
It's a big picture of you and a little picture of me. So maybe I'll see if that works. It says we're streaming, so
Oh, it says we're streaming
yeah, we're going. Let's see. View. I think I can change the view. Together mode?
together mode. Yeah.
Uh oh wow. There's like backgrounds you can get for this.
Oh yeah, that's a big picture of me. What?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if we want to that mode.
Oh, what?
Uh
We want more you than me because you're the one that went.
enter full screen. Maybe that'll help. Show myself in the grid. Ah.
What?
We'll see. Am I giant?
Um, it's playing catch up. I'm waiting.
So am I still waiting for this stream to updating?
There we go. Now it's
There we
side by
go.
side. That's perfect.
Yeah. Hi everyone.
Hi.
Welcome to Deadzone the streaming cast.
It's on the streaming cast. Sure. We'll go
Yeah.
with that.
So I'm Bryan,
And I'm Rick.
and if you've never seen us before, hi. But this is actually like our first attempt at
And
doing
you
this kind of
live.
joint thing on YouTube Live. So hopefully it's going well, and yeah.
Do
So
we have comments on?
I
I
think
have.
so.
Okay.
They're probably on by default, but I don't have a feed in front of me, so because that would probably ruin my internet. But
Probably.
yeah. But so we're here to talk about Adepticon.
You are here mostly to talk about Adepticon.
Yeah.
I got like
Uh,
what, 3 hours, 4 hours?
yeah, something like that. So those of you that maybe just listened to the regular podcast or saw the previous episode that aired just
Today.
earlier today, yeah. So you may have noticed in that episode we didn't really talk about what happened at Adepticon, and that's because we recorded it previously. This, however, is coming to you live
Live.
for those that are watching it live, and everybody else you're watching it after the fact. So hopefully it's recording on YouTube. If
I
not,
hope so.
we're kind of new to the YouTube
You,
streaming.
you would think after being the amount of time that we've done this, we would have figured this out by now.
Maybe. I mean, like, who knows? It's a brave new world and it's constantly changing.
Yeah,
So, but yeah. So hopefully this all works out and we're able to kind of post it as well to our podcast feed, so that you guys can listen to it without having to look at our faces, if you so choose. So
yeah.
that is hopefully an option in the future, but that'll be for future Bryan to figure out.
That's what Bryan does. You're the tech whiz.
But but yeah, so Adepticon.
So,
It is come and gone. It is like 2 days
yes.
later.
Did you get enough rest?
Getting there. Yeah, it didn't help that my trip back. I was like of the 4.5 hour drive. I want to say like 4 hours of it was through thunderstorms.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like through the entirety of Indiana and like only the last maybe 15-minute stretch in Michigan. So
That's no fun. So,
no, but driving over wasn't too bad.
yeah, the drive over there for us on Saturday was, I had rain all the way through Michigan. It started to clear up into Chicago, and then when we parked, it started snowing. I was like, oh, okay, this will be interesting. And then
Weather in the Midwest, how does it work?
it was clear all the way back.
And that's all
So,
same day for you.
yeah. So you headed out for Adepticon
Mhm.
on Thursday.
Yes. Yeah. Headed out Thursday morning, and got there probably around 2 or 3 o'clock. um, local time. So changing time zones is fun, and and kind of immediately jumped into like helping out at the booth and everything. We got to it and got everything set up for Armada the night before there, so that
Yep.
that could kick off running right away. We wouldn't have to worry about setting all that up. Worked out that we managed to track down the train from last year, which was
On.
good. Uh, though the new mats kind of got lost in the ether somewhere. But we were able to make do. Mike Carter, great friend of the show and friend of ours, and great supporter of especially the Kings of War scene, but
Yeah.
all Mantic games really. He was there and had a handful of mats we were able to use as
Yeah.
well. And yeah, so we got that set up the night before. He also had great little islands, much better, higher quality than what I threw together. So
So
um,
so mostly, and of course this year I didn't go until Saturday just for a few hours.
mhm.
But generally speaking, like Thursday when we get there, it's pretty much we set up tournaments for Friday.
Yeah,
And then it's kind of low key, right?
yeah, for the
For the
most
most
part. But the like I will say like from what I saw of the vendor hall, like they actually did very well Thursday, um, as far as sales go, which was really great to hear. And I think by the end of Thursday, all the Trident Realms, the new Trident Realm stuff for Armada had been
Oh
sold out.
God.
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me. That doesn't surprise me at
No,
all.
no, it was pretty spectacular. And then I got to meet another Pathfinder, Devin, who I was kind of roommated with, roomed with,
Related?
roommated, uh, rooming with for the weekend there. And we were originally also going to have a good friend of ours, Taylor, was going to join us, but then the snow that came through Wisconsin, was only
Said,
supposed to be like an inch or two, and I think it wound up being like 5 or 6. Like
oh wow.
there was a lot of snow on Saturday for folks. So it's probably for the best that he didn't make it. Would hate to have him get stuck in the on the ditch somewhere on the way. And but yeah, so got to meet Devin, and really nice guy. And he's another Pathfinder from the Indiana area,
Oh, okay.
and really into pretty much all the games. He got to do most of the side games this year,
The mini games,
the mini games. Yeah, so
master of.
yeah, yeah. So that was funny. Is like the first thing that happened when I arrived was got told that there was a Hellboy game that was supposed to have happened like in like 5 minutes of me showing up, and we were kind of short staffed, so
Yeah.
we tried to run up there quick and catch the person, but missed them. So I apologize.
Oh,
Uh, I was I guess I didn't get there quite fast enough, and so we're sorry that we missed you, whoever you were, and hope you still got a chance to check out the game. And if you don't have your own copy, then by all means pick it up, because Hellboy is a really fun game, especially if you're a fan of the franchise. So,
yeah.
but yeah, so Dev was doing a lot of Doomball. Was
Okay.
kind of the mini game that he managed throughout the weekend, and did really well at that. Uh, and and then also was helping down at the booth with like the game demos for Kings of War and some of the Deadzone ones too, I think.
Yeah.
So,
And the booth had 3 demo tables set up this year, right?
yep, they had 3 demo tables. So they had Deadzone, uh, uh, Kings of War Ambush, and Armada.
Armada. Right
Yeah,
on.
yeah, and they I, I I don't know the final numbers, but they were tracking just how many demos they ran,
Really?
and it got up there. I remember seeing the sheet, and it had to get flipped over at one point. So, so yeah, no, people really took to the Mantic booth this year in a big
Right.
way. So,
And it seemed like it was a different layout this year.
yeah, their Mantic has normally been facing like the doors that you come into.
The
You
entrance,
know,
yeah.
it's a little bit further back sometimes, but this year they had their backs to the entrance, as it were. But you know, Pat found a way to make those banners nice and tall so people could find it from wherever.
You could pretty much see the Mantic sign from anywhere.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a good time. And
So that
so
got y'all set up for Thursday.
yes,
So then you get up bright and early on Friday morning and you had
yes,
tournament after tournament.
yep. So got up at like, I think we ultimately got up like around 6 or 6:30 to go get breakfast, um, and then basically got there a little after 7
Yeah.
to get set up for Armada, which started at 8. And that ran from 8 to 2, basically a big 6-hour block. And then Firefight was immediately after that, after a little bit of an hour, to take out all the Armada mats and put the
Firefight.
Firefight ones down. Um, and that ran from 3 to 9. Uh, and so I think we got back to the hotel at like 11:30. I think, or was that might have been the night I went to go get dinner afterwards. Like at 11 o'clock at night, just like, I'm going to go
Well,
out to Culver's.
so how many players did you have in the morning for Armada?
So Armada, the event was sold out at 26, but we did have a couple no shows. But our final number was 24 players.
Very nice.
Yeah, yeah, it was
That's
it
my
was
number
really
from last.
cool. Yeah, twice double the size of last year's event, and I got to say, like the caliber of players had definitely was top notch. A lot more experience with the
Experienced
game.
players. Yeah,
Yep,
because last year we had
it was still really
only like
new.
two people that had played multiple full size games.
Yeah, yeah.
Most everybody else, like that tournament was their first real full game.
Hmm. Yeah, and this one was definitely much more seasoned players, and kind of with that, uh, the there was a lot of guys from Omaha, Nebraska. Actually, I think there was like 5 of them that came as a group,
Ooh.
and they
Oh,
played in like Armada, Firefight, and Kings of War. So like they represented for sure, like we like to see from the Michigan crowd and the New York crowd.
yeah. Well, we
So
represented Deadzone,
yes, yeah, we did.
and that's the one that matters.
But no, and like got really great feedback. It was kind of an unfortunate thing. We did have a little bit of a late start,
Yeah.
and then we were running the I think it was like an hour 45 for 3 rounds, um,
Yeah.
and I think ultimately like that was the biggest piece of feedback, and the biggest takeaway was just people not having enough time to really finish their games out. So them having to kind of wrap up in the middle of something was kind of
Yeah.
unfortunate.
Armada is definitely that you need that Kings of War length
Yeah,
round versus the Deadzone / Firefight.
yeah, and I think going forward, like that's definitely something we're taking to heart. Is like we need to give our players time
Yeah.
to play the game to their fullest, and we'll see what that how that kind of winds up being. The unfortunate thing was because Firefight was immediately following it with only that short window. Like I had to be a stickler on time,
Yep.
and like we have to be done by 2 o'clock. Um, and but otherwise, like people had a really great time. The fleets looked amazing. as you can imagine.
Just
And and
please.
and I think another piece of feedback that I'm gonna take in is next year gonna play around with the scenarios a little bit. Someone kind of justly pointed out that like the first game where we had basic tournament points 5-3-1,
Yep.
um, but the victory points was kind of the tiebreaker then. And when you're only doing 3 rounds, that becomes much more important.
Yeah.
Well, in like the first game and the last game, like you could really rack up a lot of victory points, but the middle game is like you could get like 3 or
And that was it.
4, and that was it. Like that's the max you could even get.
Sure.
So that's something I think going forward that we'll look into is just kind of pick out some scenarios that provide a more balanced
Yeah.
scoring across the board.
Right
So
on.
yeah, but good
But
good
all in
feedback.
all, Armada was amazing.
Yeah, Armada was a big success.
Right on. So then you get a little. So did you actually get a lunch?
Uh, I think I talked like Rob Phaneuf was there because they actually had a little countercharge recording station.
Yeah, they had all their podcast stuff
Yeah,
all set up. Yeah.
and he just happened to have like an extra slice of pizza,
Oh,
uh,
nice.
and we were like about to start, and I was like, I should have gone and gotten food, and he's like, you want a slice? And I'm like, I won't say no. Like I'll, I'll grab a
At this
bite.
point, yes.
Yep. Just to get me by, and like I said,
Yeah.
then later I grabbed some dinner at almost midnight. But
Well, did you go to Culver's again?
yeah.
Hey, we went there like twice last year.
True. Uh, Strangely, I ordered a single and I got a double, so it was like already more food than I really wanted
Bonus.
to have at the middle of the night. But it worked out. It gave me energy to keep it on. Uh, but no, yeah. So firefight itself,
How many players did you have for Firefight this year?
we had 16,
Whew.
16 players. So I forget what the first year of firefight was. Was it 8?
It was somewhere between 8 and 10.
Yeah,
Because we had a ringer as well.
yeah, yeah. I didn't need a ringer until the last round. One of the guys had to duck out because he had kings in the morning and hadn't eaten.
Understandable.
And like I said, we're getting done at 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Plus whatever time for the award ceremony.
Yep.
That is another thing. I do apologize to everyone that went to Armada. I didn't think to hand off my phone or ask anyone to take pictures of the award ceremony. That is my fault. I apologize that I did not do that.
Well, it's tough. I mean, it was all on you this year.
Yeah.
Like usually it's been like a tag team between the two of us getting all this stuff, getting the pictures, getting multiple pictures throughout the tournaments.
Yeah.
And giving each other those breaks to run down and check out things and say hi at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had to do it all.
Yeah, and I mean, thankfully, like I did have, Mike Carter was there, Blake,
Yeah,
and Kyle was running the big game a lot. So, but
I'm sure he was.
Had a couple of people, but yeah, as far as like dedicated to these games and these tournaments, it was kind of all me, and was running it from my tablet, as opposed to a computer, which worked well, but there were times where it was that thing where it's like it feels like it's slowing the process down because I'm like, man, I could type this thing so fast if I wasn't just having to go, okay,
Well,
so, but yeah, and got a bit of a method to it. So it was actually a lot of those 16 players. We actually did have a lot of overlap from the Armada folks, and so
yeah, the Omaha guys.
Yeah, the Omaha guys. But like it was just something I observed is like the playing group. There was a majority of them that were of the Armada, Firefight, and Kings of War. Like they kind of did the 3.
That's really cool, actually.
Yeah, and one of them wound up winning all
All
three.
three.
Travis
Yeah. Like
Tim.
that's a hat trick.
Yeah, that was really impressive, and really nice guy. Like my first time meeting him, and he was really cordial and whatnot. Even when there's kind of like rule questions
Yeah.
that came up, but I've got some rules committee notes that I've got put together. Eventually, I'll get that off to them.
Right on. So you had firefight was 3 rounds, right?
Yep, firefight was another 3 rounds. Same time block, so they were kind of running hour 45,
Yeah.
and it was at 1,000 points on 4x4s. So just to kind of illustrate that, and so that was probably the best point value for the 4x4 size,
Yeah.
um, and uh, ultimately, like it seemed like it went really well. There was actually very few rules questions apart from like the very like this is something that this is a scenario that's never really been explored or spelled out. So like, how do we
Yeah.
want to rule on it? I'm trying to think of what it was, but yeah, everyone had a good time. I know Tyler Schultz got to do a recording of his battle, one of his battles. I think
Oh,
his
right
second
on.
one. He got like grudge matched twice or something like that. So no, that was great. And
Well,
then
everybody loves to play against Tyler.
yeah, Tyler's a fun guy. And with that, like we got the first taste of our sponsored board from Corvus Games Terrain.
Yes.
Was we had like the crash ship that I had worked on
Yep.
as part of that, and a couple of the other Tycho Starport buildings had populated a lot of these boards, and it was kind of neat seeing them all there. They were probably a little terrain light for like a casual game, but for a
Yeah.
tournament, we kind of just says like, okay, we need X amount of things on the board on each one. Space them out, shift them around a little bit so they're different from one another. So each map is kind of a unique experience, but that the ultimately the
Yeah. So you
uh,
still block line of sight areas, but
yeah,
it's not a dead zone board.
it's not a dead zone board pretending to be bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but no, it they had a lot of fun. It was great seeing all the forces out there, and if I had prepared ahead of time, I could have just had all the
Well, we kind of
results of stuff.
kind of just threw this together.
Yeah, we did kind of just jump into it. So let me see. That's the Armada results. So you know what? Let me pop back real quick. We're gonna
Yeah,
circle
let's
back.
go back and get the Armada results.
Yep. So
Or the fleets, if you
the
got them.
the Armada results was that first place was Travis Tim, second place was Adam Ballard, third place was Nicole Carolus, uh, best painted was Andrew Carolus, and then the best sportsman was Sean Rogerson.
All
So,
right.
so that was a great, like I said, a great group of guys, and and lady. So that was awesome running the event with them, and they were very understanding when it was like, okay, we get that you ran out of time, but like next time,
Yeah.
let's do better.
Yes, next
And I'm
time.
like, yes, absolutely. I'm always looking for feedback like that. I want to make these games better for folks, especially. Yeah, it is that thing where like after running things like Deadzone and Dreadball, which are
Yep.
I don't know if I'd say it's a different kind of scoring usually takes place.
It really is because I mean, when we play Dead Zone, you're looking at the victory points on every kill.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it all adds up, and 16 victory points, 20 victory points, the game's over.
Yeah,
And then you have your other added points that you use as tournament points. And games like Firefight and Armada are more closer to Kings of War,
yeah,
and you score them out slightly different, especially from a tournament standpoint.
yeah. And so that's another little piece that I'm kind of taking taking forward is like, okay, I kind of set them all up like, because I was kind of working off of a Deadzone tournament
Yeah.
sheet that we developed, and I'm kind of looking at that now. I'm like, okay, this was really lacking in things that probably needed to be tracked, uh,
Yeah.
for like, uh, the I know that someone was it Matt Green? Someone was posting about like the results of big firefight tournaments that they've had in the UK,
Yeah. The
and like
31
all
players or whatever. Yeah.
yeah, and like all the statistics that they have and everything. And I'm like, oh, I did not track nearly enough. Uh, but again, it's things that we are gonna improve on going forward.
Yeah.
This was the second Armada tournament and technically the second firefight, but the first second edition firefight for
Correct.
Adepticon, the first national championships of that edition for the U.S. So there's a little bit of growing to do, but I think we got a lot of great feedback from those folks, and I think it's just going to continue to be an even better event going forward.
Yeah. So who are our winners for Firefight?
Yeah. So for Firefight, we have Travis Tim again.
Hey, that name sounds familiar.
He was playing Marauders, and I realized I skipped saying that for Armada. But that was the thing, is that we actually in our top threes of each event, we didn't have any duplicate factions.
Oh,
like they're and I think Deadzone in the top 5 there was 3 Plague, but like but yeah, so second place was Adam Ballard with Plague, and then third place was Michael Ireland with Veerman. Jeremy Duvall won Best Painted with Forge Fathers, and
very nice.
And then our good buddy Volker won Best Sportsman with Enforcers.
Yay, Volker!
Yeah. So, yeah, and then Rob Phaneuf got to play like his first firefight game as my ringer.
Yeah, I heard. Wasn't he that last minute ringer? Hey, learn how to play, Rob.
Yeah. So he actually used my minis.
All right.
Against Tim Lonis, and they were good buddies, and I guess they like hadn't had a chance to really play against each other very often.
Sure.
So like they had a great time. Tim kind of teaching him how to play, and
yeah.
And Rob getting his first taste of how the game plays. So that kind of worked out, despite the situation being what it was. And so yeah, so Firefight was a lot of fun, and
that pretty much wiped you out, and you were done.
Yep. And then I had Deadzone.
So then Friday, now Friday you didn't have to like rush as much, did you?
No.
First thing in the morning.
Yeah, so Deadzone started at 9.
Which gave you a couple minutes to sleep in and then go set up tables.
Yeah, more or less. And so same kind of thing. Got up a little early and ate breakfast. Yeah, this time we decided to set up the tables the day of, just because it's pretty quick to set up a Deadzone board, and we knew we had all the terrain that we needed for it. So, and so there was the other thing we got to do is set up 3 sponsored boards, two Corvus Games terrain ones, and one Uncertain Scenery board, which was a combo of our terrain.
Yes, it looks so sweet.
It was really neat to see how people played on that one, because just because it is so like we had it very congested as a board,
as it should be.
But we had 3 of the tunnel systems set up as kind of a T, and then we had 2 of the double height boards on the sides. So it provided, I think, a very dynamic game experience for those that got to play on it. Like I remember watching at least one game where I was a little worried, because I had one player was just kind of sitting up top and just like shooting it,
taking pot shots,
with that elevation bonus and everything. And then I come back later and the other guy won because he played the objectives. So
that's Deadzone.
I mean, that's Deadzone. And And that was kind of how I treated some of the boards, where it was like, okay, this is, this one is maybe light on like big buildings, but it has a very like a lot of like broken
Broken
scattered
scat.
terrain and everything.
Yeah.
Like it is still thick with stuff, but I'm like, okay, that provides its own challenge and experience. So um, and yeah,
So how many players did you have?
so we had 20 players for Deadzone,
Nice.
including we did have our ringers step in, but that was simply because we had one person get sick
Oh.
the right before the event, and we had a walk on as well. Actually, an old friend of mine, Jake Cheney. Um, I don't know if you remember him, but I played against him in like my first Deadzone tournament at Adepticon. He played Asterians and I was playing Rebs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
and
God, that was a while ago.
yeah, I want to say I think he's from Ohio. He's not terribly far away. I think I
Yeah.
remember. Um, but anyway, so in first place we had Adam Kinney. In second place we had Corey Booms, and in third place we had Christopher Paradise. And then best painted was Corey Satili. And I realized I did it again. So Adam was playing Nameless.
Yep.
Corey was playing Plague. Christopher was playing Forge Fathers.
Ooh.
Corey Satili had Veerman for his best painted. And then our best sportsman went to Amos Sabatka, who is playing Forge Fathers.
Very nice.
And some different Forge Father lists. Like there's a couple of Brocker ones. There was a couple folks going Thorgrim heavy, actually.
Heavy, yeah.
Which was funny because we were all in agreement. Like we weren't using the beta rules,
Yep.
and we know that the Thorgrim get a little bit of a boost in those.
They do.
People were saying like, oh, they can't. They're so weak, and it's like, no, they played pretty strongly and pretty pretty powerfully. But no, and I think the only factions not represented was Maison Labs and the Rebs.
Which really surprises me because those factions are fairly strong right now.
Mm-hmm. Though I will put an asterisk. There was a Reb model because one of the Plague players had an Alpha Simeon as a leaper. So they were kind of there. But
yeah, no, that doesn't count.
But Coach and his crew from New York got to come and play. It was great seeing them again, and he was beating me up on a couple of things. But it's all in good fun and good feedback. Like for again, he loves the game. He wants to see it succeed, and and so that's how I took his feedback. though there's the funny thing. So the ongoing thing was that he has this belief that I had told him that we would be providing items for everybody because items were being used on the boards.
Yeah.
And I did not promise that. I said we would try to provide them. And so there was a couple of players that wind up not bringing their item crates, and so mine got distributed and were being actively used, unfortunately. So I couldn't share any with Coach. But Coach, I do apologize. In one of the boxes of terrain was a big baggie of item crates.
Item crates.
And I was not aware that they were in that box, and they really could have come in handy. So I apologize, Coach. We probably could have gotten you the items on the board.
That's all right. Next time.
Yeah, but yeah. So had some really tight and close games. It was really fascinating to watch. Again, another one that Deadzone at this point, for the most part, can play itself with our players.
you get it set up, you do the pairings, and the players just go to town. I mean, it's one of the reasons why we love the game is everybody knows how to play it.
Yeah. And so there's just a few rules questions, just a couple of those, like how did this work in this scenario, with like if I get blasted, if we both get blasted into a cube and go prone, do we start a new fight? Or those kind of things, like who stands up first? Am I still getting knocked down at the end? uh all sorts of those kinds of fun scenarios.
Huh?
And yeah, the shakeout was pretty good. I managed to get a lot of people to play outside of their respective gaming groups.
Yes, which is always really cool. I mean, that's the toughest thing about going to something like Adepticon, and then you get your first matches with your buddy that you practiced for.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, really?
Yeah.
But that's one of the great things about it. No, we don't have clubs per se, but the New York group, they're definitely a group. Michigan, definitely a group.
Yeah. And so I think I told you while you were there, because you stopped in when this was going on.
But on Saturday,
there was a couple of father and son, the Richardsons, who came. They were from Bum's group.
Okay.
From down south, and so he wasn't able. Bum wasn't able to make it. He made it last year, and if I recall, he won Best Painted last year.
Yes, he did.
And so it was great to see his group represented as well. So it was that fun thing where we had kind of these pockets of people that all were able to converge and have a good time. So I mean, Deadzone was pretty great, and went fairly smoothly.
So then after Deadzone finished up, what did you do for the rest of the night?
What did I do the rest of the night? So, after that was the unsanctioned Dreadball event.
Yes, how did that go?
Pretty good. So there was about 5 of us that were kind of getting ready to play. Jeff Burbage, Volker, and the Kinneys, and myself. And then we found out that there was 2 guys that were interested but didn't know where we were. They were out in the hall. And so they had commented on, I think, Facebook or something. I just happened to be scrolling through it at the time. And they were able to come in and join us. It was a guy who was teaching his buddy how to play.
Oh, okay.
Right. And so basically what we did is, rather than do kind of an ultimate with all of us, we just did kind of 3 games of one-off Dreadball, since a lot of us hadn't played in a long time.
Sure.
And so wound up giving the 2 new guys, they got the Fingers Malone Award, which was something I threw together. It's inspired by one of the fan fiction stories in the writing contest. And it was a little $15 gift card for the Mantic store. It was to go to the player with the longest pass, but ultimately, I was right before I had to duck out. I was watching him, and it was the new guy was looking. He's like, okay, he's down by 4, and he's playing the Neobots, and he had to just get just right, make the throw, and he ties the game.
Nice.
With 1 rush left to go. So didn't see how it ended, but I gave that out, and I gave out some Deadzone the podcast tokens. So
right on.
Yeah. And I should also mention, we gave out a whole mess of prize support from the folks that we were able to kind of get behind us. We had Corvus Games Train gave out stuff for almost every event, along with little 15% off coupons to be used at the online store. Uncertain Scenery gave us some prize support to go to the top players of Deadzone.
Very nice.
And then Wind Hussar gave us books and coupon codes. to hand out to people. So some lucky folks got we had, I think, the three of the fantasy books went to the Armada folks, kind of handed those out, and then did we had two copies of
The Last
the
Hurrah.
Last Hurrah, the Dreadball
Yeah.
book that went to Firefight and Deadzone. So
Cool.
yeah, and
So you ducked out of that because of Mantic Night, right?
yes, so Mantic Night started up right after that at like 8 o'clock at night. Um, and I got roped into doing the Armada mini game that Pat came up with, which was Kraken Attack. and which was basically an 8-player mini game where each of you gets one battleship, and you're shooting tentacles, and it's the player that can round up the most of them, while not getting killed, wins, so to speak. And it was a lot of fun. But I imagine folks are interested in what else was talked about at Mantic Night.
Yeah.
So, won't lie, there was some weird technical situations where the projector that was provided by the events, by the hotel,
By Schomburg.
uh, had a VGA port as opposed to HDMI. So like all modern laptops have. so
Yeah.
so they hooked up speakers and stuff, but they were facing away from me, uh, and because the crowd was kind of off to one
Yeah.
side, and we were kind of set up at our stations already. But it was we got to hear from Ronnie on some of the upcoming stuff. Obviously, Dungeon Saga Origins was a big talking point.
Yes.
That's going to be coming out here shortly to
Like very
Kickstarter.
short. Which is funny because we have an interview with Ronnie tomorrow.
Yep. So that'll be a
It's
fun time.
busy.
Busy because we're gonna record that in the afternoon or at noon, and then I've got to edit it up
11.
so that it goes live by the
11.
next day. So you're getting a lot of content from Deads on the podcast this week.
Yes.
I'll just tell you that. uh, but but then they also hinted at, and I imagine like he obviously talked about it, so now it's a public forum kind of thing. So there's a bunch of stuff on like the Kings of War side. The Twilight Kin is going to be coming out. They're rolling out a bunch of new stuff for Armada as well. That's
Cool.
continued to explode for them, and so they're keep feeding that beast. And but they did hint at two other things that I know really caught my attention. Was so one of them is as part of like the companion subscription, and I'm thinking it's going to be an upsell as a cost, is that you will get access to STL files for Armada ships and accessories, and other little like upgrade pieces that that like don't make a whole lot of sense for them to print in resin in-house from like a production standpoint. So they're kind of making that available to folks to print their own versions of it. So they're starting with the fantasy range first.
Makes sense.
But I think it won't be very long until the sci-fi side gets some of that love, like parts for your tanks and your bombers
upgrade.
and all sorts of other little upgrade kits, and eventually I suspect like full-blown models might become available,
which would be awesome,
especially for stuff that might be out of print.
Yep.
So that's a big plus. Really excited to see Mantic kind of dip their toes into 3D printing, and then the other thing, this is inferred in how it was said. So in Firefight, we might be getting a new faction
What?
that stalks the night.
Really?
Yeah.
So we just got Maison Labs,
Yeah.
and they're hinting at another one
A brand new faction.
that stalks the night. All right.
So, um,
Huh.
read into that if you will. I'm pretty stoked about it. I have my thoughts. I forget when he said that might happen, but the timelines were kind of they were rattled off very quickly. So, but I know,
Well, maybe we'll bug him tomorrow about that one.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
a
we
little
might.
bit. I know it's all going to be about Origins, but
Well, we might follow up on some of this other goodies. But like the Armada is going to be in the companion app, I think, in the next 3 months,
oh
um, pretty soon, and that's continuing to evolve and improve and roll out. So
yeah, and seeing the pictures of Armada from Adepticon, and then talking and coaching them about their stuff, I'm like, yeah, I should probably get to work on my salamanders.
admittedly, like I love the elf ships, and the Northern Alliance ones also look very cool. But I might maybe I should go with dwarves because I cannot transport anything with sails for to save my life.
Dwarves would be perfect for it.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, so, and then we did those little games. There was a Q&A
Yep.
that happened. People were kind of asking about updates on a variety of things. A lot of which is still in the works. I know people were kind of wondering like when the next Force List book is going to be coming out and updated.
Yeah.
To which I think I even chimed in when I was like, well, we just started a beta like
Yeah.
like a month ago.
Give it a minute.
It's like it's obviously happening. It's
Yes.
obviously in the works. So, but yeah, so this is all things are moving forward, full steam with Mantic, and we've got a lot of neat stuff I think on the horizon. I think the timelines were uh, I don't know if I'd say they shifted, but there's obviously like with how huge Armada has been for them.
Yeah.
I think they have found that it's definitely worth putting
It's
some
worth
extra
putting the
energy,
time into it.
yeah,
Yeah.
into that because that could almost uh, over I don't know if I could say it overtake Canes, but I mean Canes had 46 I think players this year.
Yeah, and I mean, if you continue the growth with Armada over the next couple years, you might be looking at the fact that you're running two-day events,
Yeah, that's a very real possibility, I think.
which would be pretty awesome.
Yeah. So, yeah, we'll have to. We're definitely going to be looking at what we can do to extend the timeline on
Yeah.
gameplay time for those events. Because Firefight, most of those guys uh, did finish pretty close to time, but there were a
Okay.
handful that didn't get as far into a
Sure.
round. So it could probably benefit from a similar extra breath of time. And I'd like to go at a larger scale at some point. On
Well, and that's going to be like, I mean, you look forward to next year.
Mhm.
Realistically, even if you kept the same timeline where Firefight and Armada were on Friday and Deadzone's on Saturday, you're going to need two people running
Yeah,
because Armada and Firefight are going to have to
they're
overlap.
gonna have to overlap. Um,
There's just not enough time in the day.
No, absolutely. Or like we even talked about, it's like, well, what if we made Armada the one that goes into the evening so that it doesn't butt into any future events? But we're getting out of there at 10, 11 o'clock at night, right before the Kings of War tournament kicking off. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
So,
So that wrapped up your Saturday night
yep, yep, at like
at
midnight.
midnight. Hey, that's pretty early compared to some of the nights I've been up there.
Yeah, yeah, that is fair. It didn't bleed out into the hallway as much.
Yeah. So then Saturday was a little bit more relaxed for you.
Or Sunday.
Sunday, yeah, Sunday was a little bit more relaxed for you, and you actually did some demos, didn't you?
Yep. So didn't have anything penciled in for event running, which meant I was down at the booth running demos, um, which was fun because we had Deadzone down there, we had Armada down there. Dev was doing the Kings of War ambush stuff, and so I got to demo Deadzone for a handful of folks, and then got to pop over and demo Armada for a handful of folks. Um, and didn't get. I never ran into Rick Talk. Uh,
He
so
was down there. I saw him a couple
yeah,
times.
I never saw him the entire weekend. Like we talked about doing a like a roving reporter and having the recorder like I
Yeah,
did at the Michigan GT. I never had a chance to bump into him and pick that up. So
yeah.
and I
Didn't really
was
have any time.
I like looking back at it, I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't have I wouldn't want to interrupt people while they're
Yeah,
playing either. Like so uh, I kind of worked
that's all
out,
right.
and we're doing the recap now, so it'll be like you're
Yep.
there. Um, and but I did get to bump into the Warzone Eternal guys.
Yes,
So I got
Alex.
to meet Alex and Bryan uh, for the first time. Have you met Bryan?
Yeah.
Okay. I forget if he was
Yep.
on one of the episodes or if you
So he
just
was
met him.
on. He's not on. So the episode, the Warzone Eternal episodes, is just me, Alex, and Rick Talk
Yeah. Okay. But
for now.
for now. But no, it was fun meeting them, and I did talk to a couple people that did a demo down
Did you?
there, and I have their information
So
for that little deal you guys wanted to do.
did,
So I will
did
send you the information.
was one of them Ian?
One of them was Ian.
Yeah, he reached out to me too. He said, "I checked out Warzone Eternal. I can't wait." And I'm like, "Yep."
And yeah, the other person was um, Sean Galligan, who was running an event next to us up in Euphoria or in Utopia, the Drowned Earth
The
stuff.
Drowned Earth.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which is very colorful boards over there.
very colorful. Yeah, those were crazy.
Mm,
Rachel absolutely loved those when we walked by them.
yeah. So, but yeah, it was a lot of fun, and then yeah, Sunday, like I said, we eventually packed everything up and hit the road. I was sad I missed putting my stuff into Brush with Death, just because I kind of got wrapped up with stuff, so I didn't run down there
Yeah,
and submit anything. But I wouldn't have won anything. The entries down there were spectacular.
solid.
Yeah.
And congrats to Coach for winning
Yep. Yep.
with his Strider. That was a pretty cool
His
model.
Strider was pretty sweet. There was a Maison Labs containment group. Was that Felix
I
that
think so.
that won that one? And which is neat because it's the Northern Alliance
Yeah, I
GCPS
love that
combo.
build.
So yeah, those things always look sweet. And yeah, I mean, some of the fantasy stuff that was entered too is just stunning. Like I can't begin to hope to ever get to that level.
I don't know, man. Your scenery is starting to look really nice.
I'm finding a better way to do it cheaply and quickly is what it is. But no, so um, yeah, it was a fun time, and then after we got all packed up, I hit the road, and like I said, I
Into the
into the
storm.
storm, and I kid you not, I was listening to a podcast where they reviewed the movie Hard Rain on the way back. It was We Hate Movies, by the way. So they
The
are
Hard Rain
really
was a great
they
movie.
are a really fun podcast. They enjoyed Hard Rain specifically.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but they also understand how Ghost of Mars is the worst movie ever.
It is not. Always going to go back to that.
Yep. But yeah. So overall, I think it was really fun and exciting. Adepticon didn't see a whole lot of other stuff other than Utopia, but that's what happens sometimes. And
Yep.
but we had a great time. It was great seeing a lot of I got to see a lot of friends. I hung out with Jack Fike for
Yes.
a long time. It was great catching up with him, and he was really helpful. He was essentially my ringer for most games is kind of like on standby as needed. Um, and then always great meeting up with Mike Carter and
Yep.
Blake and Kyle, Felix and Tyler Schultz, and got to see Crazy A, Jeff Burbage, Coach and crew, and
Yep.
met a bunch of new folks as well. So that's always an exciting thing. I've always feel like I'm terrible at meeting new people at these kind of events because I just like to hang out by my group of friends. But
Yeah.
meeting Dev and there's a great set of guys that played in almost all the games that I ran. So
Yep.
got to know them pretty well and great feedback on those games. So we're gonna make them
Yeah.
better, guys, and I think you're gonna love next year.
Right on. Well, I think that'll actually pretty much wrap us up for a Adepticon recap, huh?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it took me
Well,
rambled about it for a little bit, but
because we're ramping up on a lot of stuff because, like, for us, obviously, our next big thing is the Michigan GT.
Yep.
Well, so we have our interview with Ronnie tomorrow.
Yep.
And I have our Deadzone the Podcast presents Warzone Eternal episode recording tomorrow night.
Oh, jeez.
As well as the Michigan GT podcast recording tomorrow night.
Oh, wow. That's a busy time.
Well, and a lot of it's going to be this too. It's going to be recaps, so I get to bow my head and
you get to
realize how much fun you guys all had for multiple days when I was just there for a few.
You can live vicariously through the experiences of others. But yeah, it was great seeing you though, and
it was
not just because you were able to take all your terrain home before
that made it a little bit easier, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. And I do have your Faramite that Adam borrowed, so it did not get lost or misplaced or anything. So, but yeah, so that was Adepticon 2023, and this was us live streaming this to YouTube.
Yeah, it's kind of like, how do we end the live stream? Because usually, I mean, we just start talking and you decide at some point to hit the end button.
Yeah. So now we get to do it much more awkwardly.
Like and follow us on all your social media outlets.
Yes, follow Deadzone the Podcast on all your favorite social media platforms because we're on them.
Out there.
Probably. You can find us in the drift.
And let us know, what do you think about this whole live thing? Because we've kind of kicked around the idea of doing a little bit of hobby hangout while we're sitting there. Because unfortunately, that's being an hour away from each other. We don't get to actually hang out like we used to.
True.
But we can totally do this.
Yeah. And yeah, so if there's anything else you guys like to see, especially on the YouTube channel, bat reps are in the planning stages and probably something we are going to be getting more of because we know you guys want to see us actually play these games and not just talk about them all the time.
Yes.
See how terrible my dice rolls go for real. So yeah, it'll be a fun time going forward.
It sure would. Well, I guess it's about time to hit that button, man.
Yep. Oh, you mean now? Stop streaming.